What's going on, everybody? It's Evil Eddie from Pure Evil MMA, ProWrestlingAuthority.com. It is Wednesday again, and you know what that means. Evil and Intoxicated, episode number 18, Ted.
That's
guy
right.
above me is Ted Czech for any of our new listeners out there. Ted, what's going on, brother?
Eddie, yeah, 18 episodes, man. Here we are, and yeah, although there's not a UFC event, we got a crap ton of MMA news to get through, and I got some other news for you.
What you got going on?
We bought my son. We got a cat. Yeah, you have rats, right? Did I bring my cat over?
There you go.
It's a little about this pig right now. Here's the weird thing about this cat. It actually has like an extra set of claws. It has like a thumb.
It has a thumb.
It has a thumb. Yeah, you know what they call that? It's like a polydactyl.
It's like a dinosaur thing.
Yeah, man. I got a dinosaur cat.
So that's in perfect reference of some of the news this week that we're going to be talking about, just in case anybody out there is wondering what we're going to be talking about today. There's so much, even though, like Ted said, there was no fighting that happened. We still have, 2 weeks before the next event, which is RDA. But we're going to be talking about the GSP news, him saying that he's a free agent, what's going on with all of that. Also, Shane Carwin getting that knockout. We brought it up last week. We also crazy, man. I need you to fill me in on a couple of those couple of things, because I don't really know who Jason Ellis is, so I'm hoping that you do. We have a great show set up for everybody, not to mention that the pound for pound list that me and Ted came up with. Now, there was no criteria necessarily. Like, really all that really mattered was the person that we picked couldn't be a champion, right? And couldn't be coming off of a loss. So we're going to be getting to that later on in the show. We've been setting it up. Minion set all of our graphics up, so shout out to Minion.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Minion. He's a great guy, and I know he has like a guest segment on your show as well. So yeah, it's great to have him around, and I'm real excited about this pound for pound list. So yeah, when we get to that should be great. I think people will really enjoy that, and they can tell us, what they have, who they feel are the uncrowned pound for pound, top 10, top 15 fighters in the UFC.
And I actually even talked about this on my podcast this week. Was actually just released 2 hours ago, guys. So it's up on Apple iTunes now. Pure Evil MMA, iTunes, Podbean.com, Podomatic. It's on every platform for podcasting. I've been getting a lot of messages this week, Ted, for the show. It's growing. I got some really big news that I'm going to be releasing hopefully really soon. I just want to make sure it's all set in stone and everything's worked out the way it needs to be. But I got some huge news, so hopefully fingers will be crossed for this show as well. I'm really hoping. If you guys are new to listening, make sure you guys subscribe down below. Check Ted's page out. He has videos that he releases every week on his channel, which we're going to be discussing some of those. But besides what we're going to be talking about tonight, what other topics do you talk about on your channel for anyone else out there listening that is not familiar with you or me?
Well, Eddie, and we might get into this a little bit with all the stuff that we're going to cover with the UFC and all of the changes that have been going on. And it's making my head spin. It's making my hair hurt. But anyway, I did a little video just today about Jose Aldo, because he took a flight from Brazil to Las Vegas, and what he said was he just wanted to get things off his chest to the UFC, but through an interpreter, after he walks out of the UFC offices, Brett Okamoto from ESPN is right there, and Brett, who has a show. He's got his own show now on ESPN called TK Okamoto.
Nice. That's great news. Congratulations, Brett.
And it is. I mean, you want. I mean, it's more proof.
It's root for our team right there.
That our sport is getting recognized. They got to recognize the skills. So they have to respect it. They have to respect the popularity. So here's the thing. Jose Aldo says, you know what? Nothing's changed. I still don't want to fight ever. I don't believe him. I'm not saying he's a liar per se. I just don't believe. I think it's a bargaining.
It's a power play.
It's a
It's
power
power
play.
play.
He's negotiating. He's saying he doesn't want to ever fight again. I don't believe it. He's a born fighter. He's been a fighter ever since he popped out of his mama. So you know what I mean. This is not the way he wants to leave the sport. You know, on this bad note, he's got the interim title. He wants the legit undisputed featherweight title. And so yeah, he's in the midst of this bargaining, this negotiation. He's no dummy. So he's saying that, but he's saying, well, I don't know what the future holds. I hope to have more talks with the UFC. If he wants to just leave and never fight again, why would he? He could just stay in Brazil, right?
Yeah.
He wouldn't need to come and talk to the UFC and say that he's looking forward to more talks. Talks about what? What's there to talk about?
What I heard, Ted, on my end, I was hearing the same thing, but then I ended up hearing that he would fight if the money was right. He's only going to be fighting if the money's right. He doesn't want to fight in Bellator. He doesn't want to fight in World Series of Fighting. He only wants to fight if the money's right, and really it just boils down to it's a power play. It's a power play by Jose Aldo on his end. I think that he's just pissed off, and we all knew it. We were all on his side through all of this, since his last fight with Frankie Edgar, where he was promised the fight with Conor McGregor.
Yeah, I mean, my angle or my opinion is that was the fight to make. That was the right fight to make, but I understand that Conor versus Eddie Alvarez is the money fight. That's the fight that makes business sense. Conor versus Aldo is the fight that makes sense. I guess you could say ethically.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to talk about who is the rightful contender, what is the fight that should be happening? That's Conor versus Aldo, but the one that because of the historic.
It's champion versus champion. That is why UFC 205 is what it is. It's a champion versus champion event. It's supposed to be a historic event.
It's the holy grail of MMA. I mean, we've been talking about this for years. The UFC, I know I have. You probably have too. The UFC, the biggest MMA organization in the world, in the most famous arena in the world, in the most famous, one of the most famous cities in the world, the city that never sleeps, the Big Apple, NYC. You know what I mean? It doesn't get any bigger than that. So you've got to raise the stakes even higher and have champion versus champion, and the first time ever for somebody to have the opportunity to get two belts at the same time.
So make sure you guys all go check out Ted's videos. I always look forward to them. I know everybody else in the Pure Evil Army, we're already familiar with Ted. Make sure if you haven't caught up on his videos this week that you check him out. He's been releasing a lot of really good subjects and getting a lot of views on there. I've been seeing you getting 200 views in an hour on one of your last videos. You're killing it in there, Ted. So make sure everybody goes and checks that out. Before we get any more MMA talk, I just wanted to bring one thing up with you, Ted, and something for our chat room to chat about really quick. It's now October. We're halfway through October. I'm wondering, since I'm a big Halloween buff, I am Evil Eddie. I do date Angie Jabs, who looked like straight out of the Suicide Squad. So I was wondering what everyone's favorite scary movie is. Mine, obviously, I love The Evil Dead. I love all zombie movies. What's some of your favorites, Ted?
Oh, some of my favorite Halloween type movies. God, I mean, I went when I was in high school. I went through that kick where you got to watch, Friday the 13th and Halloween and Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So I've seen all of those. I'll tell you, I'll never watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre again. That to me was
That's a scary movie.
Scared the absolute bejesus out of me.
Yeah.
But, I mean, one that I like. It's sort of a horror movie. I'm a big John Carpenter fan.
Okay, so you like Dracula?
Well, no. Have you ever seen The Thing?
Yes. Oh my God.
The Thing with Kurt Russell. That to me, that's one of my favorite. You could call it a kind of a horror movie. Yeah. So that to me is a good one. But hey, I wanted to. Oh, go ahead. You tell me some of yours.
Well, I just wanted to point out I love Stephen King. Of course, a lot of book fans out there. I hope that you'd agree with me, Stephen King, with It. That's one of my favorite Halloween movies to watch around this time. God. Freddy Krueger, though, man, out of all those killers out there, like there's Jason, there's Michael Myers. My scary guy, the guy who I had nightmares about when I was a kid, was Freddy Krueger.
Oh, all right, man. Yeah, sure. I mean, I remember all those
The
too.
bastard son of 1,000 murderers.
Wow, man. Yeah. So, yeah, that's. I mean, I'm not a huge like horror guy per se, but yeah, I'd have to go with the Thing. I mean, oh, hey, I got to tell you, Mura. I'm not sure how to pronounce this guy's name. He's a great. He's a great guy, and he's always commenting on my videos. He goes by Muradae or Muradae, Muridae, and he was saying he saw Jaws when he was 8, couldn't sleep for many nights. He's new on the chat room,
What's
so
going on, brother?
yeah. So Jaws is a great one too. That's fantastic. I remember that. I was probably about the same age.
Well, remember, Ted, I was just there. I was just in Martha's Vineyard a couple weeks ago. That's where they filmed the entire movie.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, but that, I mean, nothing comes close to that first one. They made, they made a 3D Jaws 3D.
Oh, yeah, and the water park and all that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and the second one wasn't even as good. Nothing beats the first one. It was fantastic. I still watch it whenever it comes on, But I remember when I was a kid, my grandparents had HBO, like they had it before. Well, I mean, I never knew about it until they had it, and so I was probably about the same age, 7 or 8, and yeah, that movie was crazy.
This is definitely my favorite time of year. I love the end of the year, and we got 3 months left, Ted, with stacked cards coming up to round the year off. I got to speak with Eddie Mercado from Bloody Elbow this week. I asked him what was his standout event this year. I'm going to ask you that same question, so think about that. More towards the end of the show, we'll get into that. What was your standout event this year? Think about that in the chat room, guys. The new Pure Evil MMA is up on Apple to iTunes, so make sure you check that out after the show. And also, me and Ted's podcast, Evil Intoxicated, will be up on Podomatic. Ted, are you ready to jump right into it?
Let's go, man. Let's go.
All right, so this week, one of the headlines, Monday, I was watching the MMA Hour, and GSP was supposed to be a surprise guest. So I was like, all right, I'm down. Maybe he's going to announce I'm going to be fighting Robbie Lawler. Or maybe he's going to announce, oh, it's Nick Diaz. Nope. He goes on there, he goes, Ariel, I'm a free agent. What's your take on this, Ted? Did this catch you off guard? What's your take on it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it did catch me off guard. I mean, I was thinking, and I might have done a video on this, I was thinking maybe Anderson Silva, the fight that we've been wanting to see for years now. I think we might have talked about this last week. It's kind of the Mayweather-Pacquiao kind of a thing. And but yeah, I was stunned. And I couldn't even get through my video. I made a video immediately after I learned about it, and I was just like, there's just, I don't know. My head was exploding. But yeah, so he's a free agent, so he says, and kind of like the Jose Aldo issue. This is he's bargaining here. He's negotiating. It's a tactic that he's using.
Well, because in the interview, if you listen to it, there were a couple things where he was like, I agreed with Fertitta on a few of these things, which were totally fine, but I'm not going to cross that line. That's for the lawyer to handle. But yeah, keep going. I just wanted to point that out.
So I was just trying to. The Wonder Boy's like, oh, I'm getting huge. So I look at the. Sorry. Anyway. Yeah. So all right. To look back at the history of it, GSP was saying he was negotiating with the UFC before they made the sale, and he was saying things were going great, things were going well, and they had just about worked out the whole thing with because he had GSP when he was with the UFC before. He had big sponsors. You remember?
Yeah.
Like Under Armour and who else did they have? They have Gatorade maybe.
A bunch.
What's that?
He had so many, man. And he must have been making millions.
Blue chip sponsors, right?
Yeah.
So that's a huge chunk of change that he's missing now because of the whole Reebok deal. So he wanted to, and that's probably where we got the whole 10 million. Remember how we thought somebody was saying, oh, he wants 10 million.
Yes.
If in fact that's true, it kind of makes sense because GSP's going, well, you're going to need to compensate me properly because I'm losing, because I can't have these guys sponsor me anymore. So this is the number that I came up with, right? And so they were working through that just about, and then the UFC was sold. The Fertitta sold to WME-IMG, and then shit went down the drain. And he said talks kind of fell through. So then his lawyers kind of decreed, they kind of made they stipulated to WME IMG, they said, okay, you've got until X date to get GSP.
And they waited till the 11th hour, the 11th and a half hour, so to say, to even give him.
And they offered him Robbie Lawler.
Mm-hmm.
They offered him Robbie Lawler, but the last we heard from Robbie Lawler, he had pulled out of his 205 fight with Donald Cerrone. So GSP's like, I don't know about that. I'm not sure I believe that. And so that's not. He didn't believe that it was a real. They didn't take it seriously.
Exactly.
So they said, you violated our stipulation. Forget it. We declare him a free agent. So the question is all this or any of this going to hold up in court if they go to court?
So the one thing I'm wondering, and I gave somebody a huge props on this, they tweeted out, they're treating CM Punk like a princess, hooking him up with a fight, letting him take his time, and yet you have GSP on the side, who was one of the people who built the empire, that led your forces into battle to get people to sit on their couch and dish out their hard-earned money for your company on those pay-per-views back in the day. And he can't get a fight when he says he's ready to fight. He was on his knees, Ted, on UFC Tough Talk, begging Dana White, saying, I really do want to fight. Now, whether you believed it or not, he wanted the fight. They should have made it happen. UFC 206 in Toronto. Why was it like pulling teeth? And do you think that will pull through? Do you think that he really is a free agent? Or is this, once again, power play?
Well, here's the other thing I want to say. According to GSP, the people at WME IMG said that it would take a lot of money to reintroduce him to fans. I don't believe that for a second.
Nope.
Okay, first of all, that's crap. And if it's not crap, if they truly believe that, then they are so out of touch. They are not fans of the sport. And really, as the Fertittas and Dana White showed us over the years, if you want to do things right, you need to be fans of the sport. And if these guys, if this WME IMG group, if they're just looking at it for money, and if they're not fans, then they're going to start really screwing up, and they're going to lose people. They're going to lose fighters, and they're going to lose fans of the UFC. I just can't fathom that they would tell GSP that. I mean, have they no concept of who he is and what he's done? Everybody knows who he is. I had somebody on. I'll just tell you this one thing real quick. I had somebody on YouTube telling me, "Hey, you know what? My 8-year-old nephew or whatever knows who he is, and my 80-year-old grandfather knows." Like, people young and old all over the world know who the guy is.
People still think he's fighting. People still ask if BJ Penn is champion. He's one of those names, you know. He's one of those big names. Right. So I have the UFC's official statement, Ted. I know that you must have seen it, but let me just read it to our listeners who don't have their ear to the train tracks like us. The UFC released an official statement directly after the MMA Hour at GSP claiming all this, and he said, and I quote, official statement from the UFC, George St. Pierre remains under an existing agreement with Zuffa LLC as his MMA promoter. Zuffa intends to honor its agreement with St. Pierre and reserves its right under the law to have St. Pierre do the same. What exactly does that mean, Ted?
Oh, well, I mean, I guess they're calling BS on the whole GSP's a free agent.
Free agent.
Thing. And they're kind of, I guess they're kind of drawing a line in the sand, and they're saying, we dare you to try.
That's what I was picking up from it, too. That's exactly what I thought.
Dog dare you. Try it, you know? Because did you see GSP? There was a recent photo of him with the new owner of KSW, which is the big Polish MMA organization.
No,
they took a photo with this guy, you know, like, hey, UFC, look what I'm doing. I'm talking with other people. Na 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 na. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's all, like you say, it's all a big power play. It's a great term, a great phrase to use for it. It's just negotiations and seeing who's going to blink first, I guess.
So I had one question for you to wrap this all up really quick in a nutshell. Is I know that one of his bigger sponsors, of course, is Under Armour, and UFC is Reebok. Is UFC and Under Armour under a contract as well? Like, isn't Under Armour on the Octagon like Monster is? Or are they no longer a part of?
I don't know. I can't remember, but I mean, I think the contract with Reebok says that Reebok is the sole apparel provider and sole sponsor. Well, some people have a monster contract as well, like Conor has
Like
a
Connor.
separate monster contract. Ronda Rousey has a separate monster contract,
Mm-hmm.
but so they kind of let that in too. But Monster is like the sole energy drink sponsor. Reebok is the sole apparel sponsor. I mean, I guess any company, I guess, could buy a spot on the octagon. That doesn't mean you're going to see their name on
A fighter.
Yeah. And I was just I think there's another 5 years of that. I think it's a 6-year deal. So it's either a 5 or a 6-year. We're only in 1 year into this whole Reebok thing.
Yep.
I'm ready for it to be over. we're gonna have to suffer through another 5 years of this damn thing. But I just want to bring up one other thing real quick. Daniel Cormier was quoted as saying today that he really hopes that GSP and the UFC work things out because it's going to mean more money for him. And I mean, I can't blame, all fighters have to think about themselves and their careers. But you put GSP at the top of UFC 206, and immediately there's going to be more money coming in. There's going to be more pay-per-view buys.
Without a doubt.
More money for Cormier. Right now, it's Cormier and Anthony Johnson at the top. But that show in Toronto, if the UFC and GSP were to work things out, GSP would be possibly the top draw, and therefore open the floodgates for more money.
Like, this is crazy how they're not tending to GSP. You have something so special there that's going to bring in so much money. You have GSP, who everyone knows, like you were just saying, whether it's 8-year-old kids or 8-year-old grandmothers, and that's going to bring so much to the table for super fights. People have been wanting to see GSP, like Woodley. He's calling out GSP. I know everyone was saying, oh, well, it was too soon. Still, the fact of the matter is, you put your champion up against somebody like GSP, who has proven himself over and over again to us. It's a real super fight. So why isn't the UFC making it happen? I don't know. I wonder how this is going to all turn out. Like you said, and like I think, it's more of a power play, just like the Jose Aldo thing.
Yeah, I just hope there's a quick solution. Relatively speaking, I just hope it doesn't get dragged out in court for a long time because, GSP is 35. He's no spring chicken. If he's going to do it, he's got to do it now.
He's saying he's in his prime, that right now is his time. So
right, and
throw the guy a bone. He deserves it.
He's got money. He can afford lawyers, but so does WME IMG. They've got money. They've got lawyers. Let's just let's come to some type of accord on this thing. Can't we all just get along?
Well, you bring up a really good point, because he is one of the fighters that can stand up and voice out, because he does have that money to dish out if he really wanted to, So yeah. I don't know, man. I hope it really all works out. As for everyone out there who's asking us, if we think that he'd go to Bellator or World Series of Fighting, the answer is no. I don't see GSP doing that. It has nothing to do with that. GSP's a life. I don't see him signing with Bellator. I'm sure he got offers this week, though. I'm sure he got offers.
Well, yeah. I guess it was Brett Okamoto who then texted Scott Coker and told him about that. Scott Coker said, "Interesting."
Well, I saw ridiculous tweets about, let's set him up against Roy. That fight's never going to happen. They're friends. It's just
Rory McDonald. Yeah,
it's not going to happen, guys. I'm sorry. All right, so Ted, moving on to the next topic. You brought this up last week. I want to know a little more about it. Shane Carwin gets his knockout with one hand tied, or one hand taped to his side. Okay. Can you explain to all of our listeners what the hell is going on?
Okay, so it was this past weekend. Jason Ellis, he's a former skateboarder or skate punk, if you will. Also, I think he's delved into kickboxing. I think he may have had some amateur, maybe even a pro kickboxing bout or two. He's a huge MMA fan. He always has MMA fighters on his show. I think he's actually a close personal friend of Mayhem Miller. And so every year for the past 13 years, he's had this Ellis mania. I think he's on Sirius XM anyway. So he's got a big following there. Every year he has this, I don't know what you call it, like a freak extravaganza weekend.
Like a Lollapalooza or something, but like for him.
Right, but actually it's for charity. They have, it kind of culminates with this this event that they have. I think they had it at the Hard Rock. They have a boxing ring, and then he has all these weird fights. Like I think the co-main event was like 5 dudes blindfolded with shock collars on, trying to box each other. And then Jason Ellis himself was in the main event against Shane Carwin, former UFC interim heavyweight champion Shane Carwin, who actually just recently obtained his release from the UFC, and says he wants to get back to fighting. And by the way, he looked huge.
Yeah, he did.
I mean, Jason Ellis is not a big dude. I think he maybe goes about 5'8", 5'9", 100, $180, something like that. But Carwin totally dwarfed him. The stipulation was that Carwin would have to have his right arm duct taped to his body. So he only had his left. That was it. That was all he had. And still, he ended up knocking out Jason Ellis in the second round. And it wasn't, he didn't even put his whole body behind it. It was just kind of one of these, just a short hook.
It was a doink?
Maybe the ear or thereabouts, just a short hook, and that's it. Ellis was down and out.
So, Ted, can I bring one thing up that everyone needs to know? I typed in, to get all like the images for the show, I typed in Shane Carwin, and your picture legit popped up of like videos that you've done. Yeah, I took a screenshot of it, and it's actually up for everybody right now.
I can't see it, but I'll take your word for it, yeah.
I type in on Google, I type in Shane Carwin versus Jason Ellis, and your picture pops up of you in your car doing like a news brief on it. There it is right there. You guys.
Okay. That's insane. I mean, it did all right. I got over 1,000 views on it or whatever, but yeah, I just I mean, it's a cool thing that happened. It goes to charity, so that's awesome. And Jason Ellis has been a fervent supporter of the sport for years, and so I remember there was a guy around where I live who actually went out to that a couple of years ago. He and his buddies, they kind of did a hangover type of thing. It was like 4 dudes, and they go to Vegas, and they went for Ellis Mania a couple of years ago. And because this guy that I know was a big skateboarding guy as well, so that's how he knew Jason Ellis. But anyway, yeah, I mean, I'd love to go out there for that one year, if he's still got it going on. I've never been to Vegas. I would love to go to Vegas.
I mean, it looks like a really fun event. It's actually crazy that he had his arm all taped up to his side. Congratulations to Shane Carwin. Like you said, he looked like pretty jacked up. So I was showing pictures to everybody, and he does look really good. Is he signed? Who's he signed with right now?
No one. I haven't heard that he's signed with anybody. I mean, we could see him in Bellator. World Series of Fighting's got some. You know what? We should have. I don't know. I haven't read up on that. I know they've got some issues.
I brought it up on the podcast for everybody that's wondering about that. I brought it up. Ray Sefo went on the MMA Hour and dissolved 2 of the events to kind of invest into the New York event. If anyone wants to catch up on that, it's on the podcast. Check it out after the show.
I don't know if World Series of Fighting would be a smart move, but there's Bellator, there's Ryzen, KSW, which is if you've ever seen any of their shows in Poland, I mean, they get a big ass crowd over there for their shows. So I mean, there's that one. So there's a number of options for Shane Carwin besides the UFC, who said that they don't need him, which I was shocked about. I was shocked. That the heavyweight division. You and I have talked about this before. I mean, it's a pretty thin division, probably the thinnest not in terms of girth. In terms of how many people they have in the division, in terms of the roster, it's not very deep at all. So why would you get rid of a guy like Shane Carwin, who was the interim heavyweight champion, who gave Brock Lesnar all he could handle, a knockout artist, for God's sake. He's not a boring ass, dude. He is an exciting fighter.
All right, Ted. In other news this week, we had some huge fight. Well, not that huge, but pretty interesting fight announcements. Uriah Faber coming back. What do you think about this? Uriah Faber coming back to fight.
Well, all right. Uriah Faber, he seems to be in kind of this gatekeeper role, don't you think? Like I don't know that he's ever going to challenge for the title again.
He's just making that check, it seems.
He's just making the money. He's having fun. He's in good health, and he doesn't want to quit.
Is Brad Pickett a good fight for him, though? I love this fight for Uriah Faber. I think he can take Pickett out, and it's not going to look pretty for Pickett after this fight if he doesn't pick up this win.
Oh, I mean, it's going to be an exciting fight, but I mean, Faber just kind of seems to be in a holding pattern, don't you think? Like kind of. He's just kind of in a limbo kind of thing. He's not going to challenge for the title because his protege Cody Garbrandt is more than likely going to challenge for it. But he's not ready to give it up just yet. You know, for some people it's so hard. As far as I understand it, they have this intense competitive edge, and they don't ever lose that. So it's so hard for them to walk away from the sport. You know, like Chuck Liddell had to be told by Dana White, "Sorry, Chuck, I'm not giving you another fight." And Chuck had like 3 or 4 knockouts in his in his many fights. You know, he wasn't ready. He's like, "Put me in, coach. I'm ready to play." You know what I mean? And Dana White's like, "Nah, dude, you're getting knocked out too much. I can't." So fighters sometimes, I think they always think that they've got at least one more in them. You know what I mean? No matter what. And I guess Faber. I mean, I don't know him. I can't see inside his head, but he just isn't ready to give it up just yet. And the cash is pretty good too.
Anyone out there who knows me, Ted, has been listening to the podcast, following us for a little while, knows that I'm a big Uriah Faber fan. I was a huge fan of him in high school, but he's just not bringing it to the table anymore. However, in defense of Uriah Faber, he's somebody that you can't just throw in there under a 10th ranked fighter. I think he's still a top 10 ranked fighter. Mm-hmm. So you can't just throw anyone in there against him. If he went to Bellator, World Series of Fighting, he would most likely be champion.
Oh yeah, I think you're right. Or at the very least challenge for the title. I mean, we've seen guys like Ben Henderson, think that they can clean up in Bellator, and not quite the way it seems. Not so easy. But
not so easy there, Benson.
Right. Not so fast. But anyway, no. I mean, Faber would do well in those other organizations. But I guess right now in his career, he's kind of in the UFC. He's kind of a gatekeeper.
Mike Platinum Perry versus Alan Gilban.
What do you think of Perry? This is a guy that's there's a lot of talk about this guy. What's your take on him?
All right, so I listened to his interview this week on the MMA Hour, and he's a golden interview. I love the way he brings the interview. He brings up some pretty funny subjects, saying that platinum telescopes to God and all this. He's getting a lot of publicity. Alan Gilban, though, is a tough matchup for anybody out there. We just saw Alan Gilban go up against Bilal Muhammad, but we did not forget Bilal's name after that. Even though Alan Gilban won that fight, he put up one hell of a fight against Alan Gilban. After that fight, though, Alan, we didn't know what was going to happen with him. Mike Perry is a perfect guy for him to go in there and fight. But the problem is, Mike Perry thought that he was getting somebody like a Matt Brown. So I don't know if he's underestimating him in his mind, but better watch out. Alan Gilban's no joke. Better watch out for those cartwheel kicks.
Yeah, both of these guys are exciting fighters. Did you see the exchange on Twitter? Perry already started.
F your face up, right?
Yeah. Perry already started the trash talk. I mean, you've got Perry. He grew up in Flint, Michigan. And then I think he moved to Florida. Kind of a hard scrabble life. You know what I mean? Not the easiest. And I think he looks at Gilban, who I don't know much about his background, but I think Perry just looking at the guy's like, oh, look at this guy. He's a model. He's kind of a pretty boy. So Perry was saying, I'm gonna fuck your pretty little face up. And then Gilban says, you forgot to say no homo. And so then Perry tweets back, I'm gonna make you my bitch. And then somebody else jumped in and said, you forgot to say no homo again. I mean, there's some funny stuff going on there. But, Yeah, Perry. There's a lot of people talking about him. You know, when you look on the various message boards, the MMA message boards, there's a lot of talk about this guy. People are very excited. You know, because of his what he does in the weigh-ins. Remember the first weigh-in that he did, where he took his hand away. Don't try to friend, boy. Ah! Remember that?
Yeah,
And then,
we were talking about this last week.
Right, and then the next one with hot chocolate, and he's eating the chocolate bar, and he says, "I'm going to eat you alive, boy."
Yep.
I mean, that's exciting shit right there. That's exciting stuff. People like that. People eat that up. And not only that, but then he delivers in the cage. He's knocking fools out. So he, in a short amount of time, kind of like a Conor McGregor, in a sense, there's a lot of talk about him in a short amount of time. So
listen, if Mike Platinum Perry can pick up this win over Alan Jouban, he's going to get the respect from so many people. Bilal Muhammad tried, it didn't happen. That was my point. What I was trying to bring up. I think he's underestimating him because Bilal, it was his debut against Alan Jouban, and he started tearing him up in that third round. So I don't know, man. It's going to be a great fight. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, that's UFC on Fox 22 in Sacramento, California, December 17th. That's when that is. There's some other fights on that we learned about. That the Faber Pickett fight is on that card. And let's see. Well, the main event is Paige Van Zandt versus Michelle Waterson,
which we actually broke last week during our show live. I didn't even know it was official, Ted. We were literally doing it live and stumbled across it, and we're like, oh, wow. Paige Van Zandt versus the Karate Hottie. That is great, man. I'm so excited for that one. Man, but people better watch out, man. I think Karate Hottie might have Paige here. I don't know. It's going to be a great fight for her here if she can get that win over Paige.
Yeah, and she was saying that there's no reason why she can't be promoted the way that Paige is.
Exactly.
She's you look at her, she's hot. She's a karate hottie, and she's always doing stuff on her Instagram, splits and this and that.
She's been around for a while, man.
She has. So, but I agree with her. There is no reason why. There's no reason why. They're two of the hottest chicks in the strawweight division in the UFC, for that matter. So there's no reason why they can't push her.
Also this week, Ted, Jessica Evil Eye saying that she's going to be taking an entire year off. Now, quickly, I just wanted to say she's been having a really hard year so far this year. Her last couple of fights, didn't really go her way. She lost her father earlier in the year. She really wanted this last win. I think this is a very smart decision on her end, just to figure out where she's at in her head, and that's what she's looking for. I think at some point in everybody's life, we all take our own little personal, our personal little time off to get our heads right, because at the end of the day, we're all we got left, So I'm happy she's doing this. She's realizing that I need to really get a win under my belt. I need to get my head right before I'm able to do that. What do you think about this? Is this smart, or what do you think?
Oh no, I think it's smart. I mean, as long as she can afford to do it, that's great. She should do it. It reminds me of Robbie Lawler, because he had said that really it wasn't anything physical that the reason why he didn't fight, he didn't agree to fight at UFC 205 wasn't anything physical. It was more that he just needed to take a little bit of time off too. Now he says he's ready. He's ready for GSP, and he's saying, GSP doesn't want to fight me now. But there was a time period in there where he said I just needed to step back for a moment, make sure. It's like I've always been one to just charge in there. I just need to step back for a moment and make sure I was doing everything for the right reasons. And I mean, that guy's been around for a long time.
Yeah,
long time. I think he became a pro at age 18, if I'm not mistaken. As soon as he could. I mean, fighters need that. Fighters need the time off if they can do it. That's great. They should.
What other fights that came out this week, Ted? Am I missing anything?
Let's say I did. I made a list.
Awesome.
Let's
Get
see.
prepared.
Alexis Davis versus Sarah McMahon. That's going to be on the Tough 24 finale. That's a pretty significant fight.
That's in 2 weeks, right?
Female bantamweight. You know, I don't have the date for that one. Probably.
The tough LA.
Isn't it in Mexico City?
Yeah, so that's the RDA versus Tony Ferguson. That's going down in 2 weeks. I talked about this on the podcast. I don't know if I cut the segment out in editing, but yeah, Sarah McMahon. Is that what you were saying?
Yes, yeah. Alexis Davis versus Sarah McMahon. It's on the Tough 24 finale. Yeah, I think you are right.
Alexis Davis coming off a loss to Carolina Kowalkiewicz, I'm pretty sure. So she needs to pick up this win.
Okay. And then we have Johnny Hendricks versus Neil Magny.
Ooh.
Return of Johnny Hendricks. What was his last fight? His last fight lost to Wonder Boy. Neil Magny coming off of a loss to Lawrence Larkin.
Wait. I think Johnny Hendricks had one more fight after Wonder Boy and lost again. I feel like. Why did I feel like that? Maybe I'm against Kelvin Gastelum.
Oh yeah. Oh, okay.
Remember he fought against Kelvin. I swear this happened. I think at UFC 200, right? Kelvin Gastelum.
Somebody is going to Minion. Minion will chime in.
Is Minion here tonight? Is he in the chat room?
2, 1. Yeah, no, he's here because he just told us the Tough finale is December 3rd. So there we go.
Okay, Tough 24 finale. Okay.
Tough 24 finale is December 3rd. All right. Hendricks fought at UFC 200. Magny lost to Larkin. I was right about that. Yes, and Jody saying yes, it was Gastelum.
Can somebody check the female fight on the RDA card? That's what I'm trying to figure out. I guess it's not Sarah McMahon. Who is it? I'm sure it's at the tip of my tongue, and I don't want to give out any wrong information.
There was a Minion mentioned. Tim Means, the Dirty Bird.
The Dirty Bird.
The Dirty Bird versus
Aljamain
Oliveira.
Oh yeah, Oliveira.
UFC 207, which is also Hendricks and Magny is on 207, which is December 30th. It's where we're going to see Ronda Rousey versus Nunes. Tim Means versus Oliveira, 207. And then we have Matt Brown versus Tarek Safadine at 207.
So that's what the fight they were predicting with Mike Perry was going to be. Matt Brown. I was like, there's no way they're going to do that. There's no way.
Oh, okay. Alexa Grasso versus Heather Jo Clark.
That's what I'm thinking of. I did get the rate about Carolina Kowalkiewicz. I knew it was in there.
Oh, see, I'm confusing the Tough 24 finale with the Tough LA 3 finale. Oh my God, dude, I can't keep it straight. But yeah, initially there was a rumor floating around that it was going to be Mike Perry versus Matt Brown, and then I thought he was biting off a little bit more than he could chew at that point. But now, it's Matt Brown versus Tarek Safadine and Perry versus Joban. Yeah, makes more sense.
So those are a list of some really great fights coming up. I'm really excited the way this year is going out. It's going out with a bang. To think our first event this year, Ted, and we're going to be getting back to it at the very end of the show. Make sure you guys all remember, if you're just tuning in, I'm going to be asking everybody, what was your standout fight this year that stood out most to you? And leading off this year was the famous Robbie Lawler versus Carlos Condit. That was our first pay-per-view fight of the year, January 2nd or 3rd.
Right.
Been a wild year, man. I feel like that was like a couple months ago. This year flew by. So moving on to the new segment, and if there's anyone new listening right now, if you don't know who I am, I'm Evil Eddie from Pure Evil MMA, ProWrestlingAuthority.com. That guy up there is Ted Czech. Make sure to give him a follow. Make sure to give him a follow on YouTube. Just type in Ted Czech. That's not TEDCHECH. That's TEDCZECH. Make sure you give me a follow on Twitter at evil_echo. That's EVIL_ECCO. And also, to make it 10 times easier for everybody, at Pure Evil MMA. That's it. At Pure Evil MMA. Like us on Facebook. The podcast after this is going to be on Podomatic. If anyone out there is listening or waiting for us to release it, it's going to be released tonight, right after this episode. So You're listening to episode number 18 of Evil and Intoxicated. We're about to jump into the next segment. Ted, what do you got planned next?
Well, we could either do Chael Sonnen versus Tito Ortiz, or this whole big mess with the UFC. It's kind of like it's almost like a two-parter. The changes in the UFC and this kind of this rebellion that's going on with some of the fighters. So I mean, we can kind of lump it all together. You know what I mean? But
I say we jump right into that. I think that's a very important subject, a very professional subject for us to cover. It's very, very important that we cover this base the right way. So I'm going to leave this to you to start off, Ted.
Okay, so a little bit of history here. Let's go back to June 21st. I think it was right around when the sale was made public. Dana White said on the first episode of remember the podcast that they set up between it's Matt Serra and
the Unfiltered UFC Unfiltered.
UFC Unfiltered. So Dana White was instrumental in getting that podcast off the ground and everything, and of course he put himself in, or somebody said, okay, well Dana White's going to be the first guest. So Matt Serra and the other guy, I'll just call him the other guy. They asked Dana White, they said, is this like our first and last? Do we need to be worried about getting pink slips here or what? You know, because you just sold the company. And he said, you know, don't worry about stuff like that. Listen, everybody who works for me, let this be the last thing you worry about. Yeah. And now, fast forward to this week where we've got news that, let's see, thanks to Ariel Helwani, we have news that UFC Canada, the majority of the Toronto staff laid off. UFC in China, half the office let go. Executives like Gary Cook, Marshall Zalesnik, and Ken Baker, gone. Totally, 15% of the total staff are on the chopping block.
I saw last night they released the social media crew, some of the people in the social media crew for the UFC. It's like, wow, what the hell's going on?
So I mean, you know, people have speculated. Well, you know what? This is
something you got to expect when there's a new boss in the building.
Right. There's a tightening of the ranks. They're getting rid of
trimming the hedges.
Trimming the hedges, if you want to call it that. It's a shame, really.
It is.
First of all, I don't. Dana White shouldn't have said that. First of all, how could he have known? You know, if he's relinquishing control of the company, I mean, he's not the owner anymore. He's got some type of ownership, a little bit, but I mean, generally speaking, the WME IMG people are running the show now, right? Yeah. So if he's relinquishing control, how could he possibly say, everybody who works for me, let this be the last thing you worry about, i.e., you know, getting let go? Ridiculous. I can't trust anything this guy says anymore.
No, we can't. We never could.
I know, but you know, and maybe it took me longer than most because I wanted to believe the guy, but time and time again, he's just shown that, you know, he says whatever comes to his mind. I just take the opposite. Whatever he says, I take the opposite. I believe the opposite. But you know, people have speculated that, you know, this is, and we know this when you have new owners, these things happen. But you know, the WME IMG is going to move their own people in. You know, it's kind of like when you get a new president. New president says, "Okay, everybody, out the door you go." I bring in my people. I bring in my own cabinet. I bring in all my own people to head up all the various divisions and everything. And that's what WME IMG is doing. That they're fully within their rights to do that. It still sucks. The other thing that I read was that it's a website called MMA Supremacy. They say that a number of the number of UFC events that are held internationally, that's going to decrease. Now, you and I talked last week about the Philippines. Remember that?
Yeah, that was
a
good.
I'm speculating that probably the reason why they just pulled the plug on the whole thing after BJ Penn said, "Oh, I've got a rib injury," was because the Philippines said, "Well, we're going to drug test everybody that gets off the plane." Yep. Everybody in the UFC entourage we're going to drug test everybody. And I said, well, that's probably why they pulled the plug on it. But it kind of also makes sense when you hear that about they're going to decrease their events internationally. So they ran into one little problem with the Philippines. They said, forget it then. They don't care. Apparently, WME-IMG wants to focus on domestic events, just events in the United States. Just events in the United States. It sounds like more so than anywhere else. They're going to cut down on other things, on areas around the world. And I don't know if that's. I don't know. What do you think, Eddie?
Well, this year, especially this year, we've been seeing them travel a lot more lately and go to other areas that we usually never saw them in. And it was really exciting. We learned a lot, but really at the end of the day, it boils down to each event, even though they're all around the world at different places, they all look the same when it's all set up and done. So I don't agree totally on having it all over here. I do like them switching it up, having cards in Brazil, having cards and having fighters from Brazil fight on the Brazil card, having fighters from, Italy fight, all of that. You can't just have it in America. You can't just have it in Vegas. And it just doesn't work that way. There's look at the WWF. I mean, they just travel around the United States mostly. They do a great job, but the UFC is a worldwide sport. It's you got to travel,
Yeah, I mean, I think they'll keep the stuff in Brazil because that's such a huge market for them, and because they have a TV deal in Brazil. They've got a separate network down there that carries their pay-per-views.
Well, they're talking Asia. They're never going to go to Asia or something like that again.
Well, yeah, the UFC in
or Japan.
And that's. I mean, yeah, I could see that. How often do they go to Japan? Once a year, if that.
I'm seeing no more Japan, no more Singapore, China, and Philippines. That's what I'm seeing.
Okay. I'm not sure they'll be missed, to tell you the truth, because Ryzen is getting huge in Japan. ONE FC is huge in I believe Singapore and the Philippines. You know what I mean? So I don't know that the UFC is going to be missed there. In those countries.
So usually in a year we see how many scheduled events. This year I know there was a little more. I think there was around 42, 43 or something like that scheduled event. Usually it's somewhere in the mid 30s. They're saying they're going to cut that number down. And we're going to experience more of weeks like this, 3 weeks without fights and stuff like that.
Oh man!
So I'm just saying I enjoyed all the events this year. I loved it.
Yeah.
I mean, it does kind of have a little die kill every single week. There could be some more weeks in between, but it's a sad thing. And this is something that you got to expect when there's new bosses. They're going to find their comfort zone, and then we're going to ride it out. But I think the UFC had a great heading this year, going to all these different places, testing out the waters, and I guess they didn't like a few of these places. So what are you going to do?
Muradai says this means trouble for fighters that can't get into the U.S. to fight. So we've heard from
huge problem.
From time to time, we hear about fighters that have visa problems.
Huge, yeah.
And, and sometimes it is a bigger problem for some fighters. And so, yeah, that's going to kind of suck if everybody has to come to the United States. Wonderboy saying Trump won. There will be very limited foreign fighters for 2017.
Let's not touch it.
I don't know about that. I mean, Trump is worried about people coming into the country illegally. But I mean, if you're just coming in for a fight, and Trump is good friends with Dana White, it's not a problem. It's not going to be a problem for fighters, trust me. If he becomes president. We'll have to see. The debate's going on right now. Oh, I think the debate just ended maybe a half hour ago. It was from 9 to 10:30.
Oh, okay.
The last one. And it was actually in Las Vegas, too.
Yeah, man, it's Wednesday night. It's a hot night for TV. Anyone out there that's watching, thank you for tuning in. Ted, what else is going on in the chat room before we move forward?
Well, I told you what Muradai just said. Oh, no, and he was saying, no wonder the new owners want Dana White to stay. You can never trust him. It's perfect for them.
He's the front guy. He's the
front guy.
Guy.
He creates his own narrative, and then everybody, the sheep just follow along.
The scapegoat, pretty much. He's the front line. They send him out on the front lines to. He's the perfect bad guy for everybody to be
Right.
upset with.
Who are these WME IMG people? I don't know who they are. There's kind of a shadowy, like a shadow government. You don't know who they are.
I'm mad at Dana. All right, so let's get into the next subject here. Chael Sonnen signing with Bellator, and the debut fight for him on the Bellator contract, Ted, is...
Hey, can I just say one more thing about this whole mess with the UFC?
Of course, definitely.
Thank you. The whole rebellion thing, we've seen more so this year than I think ever before. We've seen more fighters speaking out, saying how they are not satisfied with the UFC. Some of it, sometimes I think it's the Conor McGregor effect, that we've never seen a fighter so outspoken as him. And he's saying I run the table. I see the UFC as partners, not as my employers, et cetera, et cetera. Some of it I think might be due to him. Some of it is the sale of the UFC, and they're not happy with that. Like GSP is. And Juliana Pena, she was all upset because she thought she should be the one to fight Amanda Nunes, and instead it was Ronda. She just now has backtracked from her statements, and now she says she'll wait.
Yep.
She'll wait it out. So who got to her? Who got to her? That's my question. Same thing with Anderson Silva. Anderson Silva had some harsh words for the UFC. Now he's backed off of his. So I'm sorry, Dana White is Dana White, blah, 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 blah. Jose Aldo, another guy, just flew out to Las Vegas and met. We already went over that. But, so there's been a lot of fighters, and I thought, well, what's the end game here? Is it that we're going to see a fighters union? If enough people get pissed off, can they organize? Do they want to? Because Jose Aldo was told, he said Dana White told him, if you keep your mouth shut, there's more money in it for you.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't know if that's necessarily true. Take a look at the NFL, right?
Yeah.
The NFL has their top tier players, like a Tom Brady and all those other guys. They're making millions upon millions, and it goes on down the line till you get the guy who is on the practice squad who maybe is making $200,000 a year. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So there's a huge range. That could very well be, and they have a players union. That same thing could happen in the UFC. You could have Conor McGregor at the top, and you could have somebody down at the bottom. The thing for me is, what I would like to see is the guy down at the bottom making more than what he's making now. I mean, he shouldn't be making Conor McGregor money, but he should be making enough
to stay comfortable.
To stay comfortable, absolutely. Great way to put it.
If you're a professional and you're a fighter in the UFC, there's no reason you shouldn't. That's what I think, man. Come on. All right, so this week, Chael Sonnen, it was announced, Ted, going to be fighting Tito Ortiz. Now, I did a poll on my Twitter page. Everyone can check that out. I asked, who do you guys think is going to win this fight? Ted, people are tearing each other apart right now on social media. What's your take on it? And then I'll give you mine.
Well, let's see. First of all, I was a little shocked that Chael Sonnen, another guy that couldn't make it work with the UFC, and they said, "There's the door," right? And they don't seem, the guys who are maybe a little bit older, like a Shane Carwin, they don't seem to have a problem with that. So he goes to Bellator. It's kind of the who was it? Pat Miletich. He said, the Geritol posse. Guys that are older. Guys that are older should fight guys who are older. Like Ken Shamrock fighting Royce Gracie. Tito Ortiz fighting Stephan Bonner.
Yeah, it works out perfect in that sense.
Fighting Tito Ortiz. It works. You can't put an older guy like Tito Ortiz in against a young buck who's 25, 26, 27 years old, and is nearing their peak or just about at their peak. It's just not fair. So I don't have a problem with older fighters fighting. Some people are like, they're used up, they're washed up, they're slower. Yeah, but as long as they still got the drive, and as long as they're not suffering from anything, as long as they're healthy, I say great, let's do it.
Yeah, man, and it's perfect for Bellator too. I think this is a perfect fight for them. This is the fight that everyone wanted to really happen. I mean, what other fight out there did you really think was going to be the debut fight for Chael Sonnen here? I mean, come on.
People were talking about Wanderlei Silva.
Yeah, that's true. I mean,
Those guys were supposed to fight on the
yeah,
finale, or they coached the Ultimate Fighter. But the thing with that is, okay, so Wanderlei Silva already has a fight booked for New Year's Eve against Crow Cop at the Ryzen Openweight Grand Prix, right? So then I believe Scott Coker said we're probably not going to see Sonnen versus Silva until the summer of 2017. It makes sense. Silva finishes up with Crow Cop, and Sonnen fights Ortiz. Maybe they each have another fight in between just to kind of tide them over, and then they fight in the summer.
now Tito hasn't been fighting since his last fight against Liam McGeary, where he was actually doing pretty good in that fight. He was even on top and got submitted in top control in like mount. So I'm excited for this fight. I think that Tito's going to take it, though. I think this is a bad matchup for Chael at 205, right? It's at 205.
Yeah, it should be. I mean, Chael Sonnen has fought at 205. He's fought at 185.
He's not that good at 205, man. I just don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess maybe the weight cut is more difficult for him as he gets older. He used to walk around at about 217, 220, and then cut to 185. So yeah, I mean, he'll probably be at a weight and strength disadvantage to Tito Ortiz, but I mean, they're both wrestlers. So some people out there are worried. It's just going to be a wrestle. They're just going to be wrestling. They're going to be laying on each other, laying prey the whole time. But I mean, Sonnen is not. I mean, they both have serviceable striking skills. Do you remember? And I mentioned. I think it was today. I mentioned this in one of my videos. Chael Sonnen when he took on Anderson Silva the first time. How many times did he drop Anderson Silva? 2-3 times in that fight, right?
Yep.
Now people say, but he was on. He
was winning. He was beating Anderson Silva the entire fight. He was the one person to come the closest to beating him up until the last minute of that fight.
Do you remember? I forget what round this was in. Okay, Chael tries to kick Anderson Silva. Anderson Silva grabs his heel, right? Chael twists his body and does a roll to get out of that. I was like, oh my god, that like blew my mind when I saw that move. I was like, wow.
The build-up, the epic build-up to that fight, all the shit talk that was going down. One of my favorite rivalries right there. He was just saying all these things about Anderson Silva, and Silva luckily won that fight off of his back again, right? That was off of his back that he won that.
What do you mean luckily?
Well, he was getting his ass kicked the entire time.
Lucky for him, yeah.
So we saw a completely different turnaround in that second fight, though.
Yeah. I mean, and Chael was he on TRT or no? He was on something illegal. He wasn't even on TRT. He got busted for steroids after that first Anderson fight, I believe.
Just epic fights that we'll always remember. And now we have Tito Ortiz versus Chael Sonnen. Now, Ted, everyone out there is wondering, why didn't this match ever go down in the UFC? Can you explain that to everybody?
I mean, I would guess that they were in different weight classes.
And so this timing was off.
How much of an overlap was there between Chael Sonnen and Tito Ortiz? I mean, because Ortiz's last fight in the UFC was
doing awful at the end of his run there at the UFC, but he
that was against Lyoto Machida. That was his last fight in the UFC, and Dana White was pissed at him for some reason, and it basically was kind of like a hit job. He gave him a difficult fight on his way out.
Yeah.
Although Tito caught Lyoto Machida in a triangle, and nearly had him with that, but the rest of the fight was Machida actually ragdolling Ortiz.
I mean, Ted, I always forget there's people out there that have no idea about any of this, what we're talking about, and I wish we could show them. And the only way that you guys can really do that is if you get UFC Fight Pass and check out some of the older seasons of Ultimate Fighter when it really started, like Dana and Tito's rivalry towards one another. I mean, at one point, before I jump around, I think it was like season 3 of Ultimate Fighter, right? Tito Ortiz versus Ken Shamrock, or Chuck Liddell, right?
What's that? Which?
I think no, it was Shamrock versus Tito Ortiz in the Ultimate Fighter season 3. They were coaches, and then there just became this whole rivalry. Dana just really hated Tito Ortiz, and even said to Chuck Liddell if he beat Tito Ortiz, he would write him a personal check. And that happened.
Chuck Liddell were good buds and still are. And yeah, Dana just could not stand Ortiz. At one point, they were going to have a boxing match.
Oh, he was saying that he owes him money still and all this.
Do you remember that? The two of them were going to box.
Dana backed out.
Right. They did like or I don't know who did or whatever, but they did a whole documentary on it and everything. There was the build up. The two of them were going to have a boxing match because Dana White used to be an amateur boxer and a boxer-size instructor before he noticed that the UFC was for sale and he went to his childhood
out
friend
in Boston, right? Isn't Dana from Boston?
Yeah, Boston, Massachusetts. So hey, just going over here to the chat room. Some people were not sure. I failed to mention the date, or maybe I did, but Bellator 170. Sammy's saying, Bellator 170, January 21st in Los Angeles. It's at the Forum, which is, I think, where the LA Lakers used to play. But anyway, so yeah, it is official. Because there was some confusion. People were thinking maybe Sonnen hadn't agreed to the fight, but it looks like it is set.
I'm excited for that.
I'm picking Chael Sonnen.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It's going to be a great. Make sure you guys let us know who you want to win if you're listening to this now live or on the repeat on Twitter. All you got to do is type in Pure Evil MMA at Pure Evil MMA or at Evil_Echo. That's EVIL_ECCO. And you will find that poll. We do polls every week, and I bring them up on the podcast. And if you're just tuning in now, the new Pure Evil MMA podcast is now up on Apple iTunes and Podbean.com. So tomorrow morning when you're waking up having your morning coffee, I bet I mention your name. I like mentioning everyone's name during the show, Ted. Everyone that follows along, everyone in the Pure Evil Army. I have the members of the week. I have all these fun segments I set up for everybody. So,
you're funny, man.
And that's what we do here, guys. This is a Q&A. So if there's questions in the chat room, Ted, definitely let me know because I can't see them over here on my end. But everyone listening, thank you so much. You're listening to episode number 18. And oh, man. I'm so excited that we do this show every Wednesday night. The one thing I don't like, though, Ted, is that there's like thousands of shows on right now at 10 p.m. on Wednesday night.
What are you going to do, right? That's the whole beauty of a podcast is it's there for people when they can listen to it.
Yeah, yep. It's not like the radio.
I mean, if they want to interact with us, that's a bonus, for those who want to, right? But if you don't or if you can't, then it's archived and you can watch it and listen to it whenever you want.
Yeah, man, 2016, what a fun year. Doing YouTube videos and covering MMA. It's just one of my favorite things in life. All right, so the next segment, Ted, what do you got planned?
Well, Eddie, let's see. We did Sonnen Ortiz. We did the changes to the UFC, the rebellion. We did the upcoming fights.
Is it time for our pound for pound?
What's that?
Is it time for the pound for pound list?
Talking about GSP, it's time for the pound for pound list.
So, right, guys, breaking into it, what we did, and we brought this up on the podcast, we brought this up in the last couple of weeks, me, Ted Czech, and Minion McGrunion, who helps us with all, the podcast. You guys all know him from the Pure Evil MMA podcast. You guys know him from Twitter. You guys know Minion McGrunion from YouTube. And if you don't, well, you're missing out because he just released one of the best videos I've ever seen, some of the best animations talking about the pound for pound list, and we break this down for everybody. So what we did was, between me, Minion, and Ted, we filled out a list of 15 fighters who we thought would be or should deserve to be on the pound for pound list, who is one, not a champion, and two, not coming off of a loss. Besides that, there is no criteria that we discussed here that qualified fighters. I like basing mine off 2016 and the activity. Ted probably based his off of something a little different. And the way it all worked out, well, let's take a look here, Ted. Who did you have at the bottom of your list, Ted? Let's start here. Let's start from the very bottom on all of our lists. Looks like you had
Let me just explain just a little bit about my thinking.
Okay.
I mean, I wasn't necessarily going on activity this year per se for these fighters. I was really going on if they had, because we weren't doing champions, but I was looking at were they challenging for the title? Had they challenged for the title in the past? And had they come back from that? You know, because like I said, we're not doing champions, but or were they gearing up for? Are they challengers right now, or are they kind of gearing up for a title fight?
Yeah.
So and then I looked at like each division. I'm like, okay, who are the strongest fighters in pretty much each division? So it was just kind of a visceral, like an emotional kind of thing for me. You know, like who do I think about a lot when I think of tough fighters in the UFC? Not popular, but I mean, you know, like successful fighters in the UFC. These are the people. So Lawrence Larkin was 15, number 15 for me. You know, has looked great in his, you know, since dropping to 170, he's looked great. So I went with Lawrence Larkin for 15.
Okay, so you went with Lorenz Larkin. I mean, what was his last fight? He just won against
Neil Magny.
Neil Magny. That was a great fight. So
Right.
Then I had Francisco Trinaldo at the bottom of my list. I mean, he's just been on a sweep, man. Even before this year, he's just been killing it. I think he's on like a 5-fight win streak right now or something close to that. He just beat Paul Felder. He busted him open pretty bad. I actually just talked to Paul this week, Ted. He said that he's healing up pretty well right now. But
Good to hear.
So yeah. I had Francisco Trinaldo at 15 and Minion. Minion had Juliana Pena. Now, here's something I want to mention really quick, Ted. And there's a couple things that Minion wanted us to mention on his behalf. I'll get to that in a second. All three of us picked 3 different female fighters to be on this pound for pound list. Can you just tell us why you picked your female fighter?
Valentina Shevchenko just looked fantastic against Holly Holm. Really like her a lot. I think she's could be very marketable, and I actually think that she should be challenging for the title.
I mean, why do you pick her over somebody like Juliana
Pena? I mean, I'm impressed with Juliana, just not to the degree that I am Valentina. So that's probably why. You know, I wouldn't mind seeing the two of them fight. But yeah, just stylistically, I like Valentina. I think she's a far more exciting fighter. I think she's, you know, I was really impressed with her in that fight with Holly Holm. So,
yeah, it's just crazy. We all 3 of us came up with 3 different female fighters.
Huh? Yeah, that is. I didn't realize that. All right.
So I picked Raquel Pennington for my female fighter. And the reason why I did that is because I was judging it really off of 2016. She's been making a huge splash so far this year, just killing it. I think she's like 3 out of 4 so far this year.
Well, that's very good. That's very impressive.
I think she's either 3 for 4 or 2 out of 3. One of the two. So that's the reason why. But honestly, I mean, I could see why you might say Valentina, even though she's won 1 fight this year. I think she's had 3 fights in the UFC, won 2, lost to our champion right now.
Right.
Minion picked Juliana. I think that was my top pick and probably your second pick, if anything.
What's that?
Juliana. Would she have been your second pick?
For a female fighter on this list?
Yeah.
Either her or Karolina Kowalkiewicz.
Okay, that's another name. Only reason why I didn't pick Karolina is because I think she also had 1 fight this year. I mean, I was basing a lot off of that. I mean, there was a lot of impressive fights by fighters, but when it came down to it, Ted, I mean, it was pretty hard thinking of a fighter who wasn't champion, somebody who wasn't coming off a loss. You know what I mean? So, all right, so let's break into number 14. Who'd you have, Ted?
Number 14, John Lineker. Yeah, you know, that was a close fight with John Dodson, but I mean, prior to that, I mean, he was just sawing through fighters, just like a buzzsaw. You know what I mean? So Do I think he is the most complete fighter out there? No, but just very devastating and exciting. And I mean, you get a complete fighter like John Dodson, who really had trouble with Lineker. You know what I mean? So Lineker is the real deal.
I mean, a lot of people out there would judge, and Minion was one of them, Ted, saying that he wanted me to mention this on his behalf really quick. He punished Lineker because he missed weight back to back.
Ah, okay. All right, fair enough.
He's also with Romero as well, Yoel Romero. That's the reason why you're not seeing him on that list.
Oh, because of the steroids.
Yeah.
Well, I see that. I see that. I guess I'm a big critic. I always call everybody out. Whenever anybody gets busted for steroids, they get a video on my YouTube.
Congratulations, you get a video.
Yes, hey, you won. No, but I mean, I that's what I do. So I'm a big proponent of the testing, and I'm a big opponent of steroid use, and but I guess I just I wasn't going on that, but I get why Minion did that. I understand that, but yeah, for me that wasn't a criteria.
Now, I just want to mention again that the way the UFC does it, and I had Minion do a segment on it this week for the podcast in case anybody doesn't realize how the UFC makes it all work out and everything, why, there's fighters on the rankings that we sometimes don't agree with. And we learned a lot from doing this. So we're going to talk about that in a second. This was an experiment, I just wanted to say. There was no certain criteria that we followed. So the list that you're seeing, like Cowboy, you're going to see Cowboy. We're going to get into it in a second. I don't want to ruin it. 14, I had Yair Rodriguez on here. Reason is he's just put on a great performance so far this year. Spin shit. That's all I remember. Just spin shit between the last fight with Alex Caceres. And then he had another fight this year as well against Yair Rodriguez just fought Touchy Feely. He beat, and he got him with a flying knee. Touchy Feely. So that's why I have him at 14.
You love that nickname, Eddie.
Touchy Feely.
I'm concerned about that.
All right, so on Minion's list, he had Nikita Krylov as 14. Something I would agree with. I could see definitely why you would have Nikita Krylov.
Nikita Krylov, yeah.
So your number 13 matches somebody on my list, Ted. I think Derek Lewis had to make this list somewhere on the pound for pound rankings. Why so low though? Did you pick Derek Lewis? Why all the way at 13?
Well, I mean, that's a good question, Eddie. Probably it doesn't have as much to do with Derek Lewis as it does with everybody else. In other words, there were so many other people that impressed me as well. So, and look, I mean, he has some decent wins in the division, but he's not quite at that level of. He hasn't quite proven it to me that he can handle everybody.
I mean, do you see his next fight? They're giving him a no name.
Yeah,
And it's a main event, I'm pretty sure too. A 5-round main event, a heavyweight fight.
Well, the only thing I can come up with is everybody else is busy. It's got to be that.
Everyone else is busy.
Why else would they do that? But I want to see Derek Lewis against somebody in the top 5, and let's see. He's ready. He's ready.
I totally agree. He just beat Roy Nelson.
What's that?
He just beat Roy Nelson.
He did, and that's pretty good. But yeah, I mean, like I said, it's not that I'm not impressed with Derek Lewis. It's just wait till you see the other guys that are on this list is all I can say.
Okay. Yes. All right. So jumping ahead a little bit here, Ted. Well, first off, Minion had Francisco Trinaldo, like I had on my list as well. Jumping ahead a little bit, let's jump right to our top 10 list. Do you want to list off your top 10 and talk about it a little bit, like why?
You had Francis Ngannou at 13.
Yeah.
He had Francisco Trinaldo.
No, yeah, I'm saying I had Trinaldo at 15. So I'm saying I agreed with him. Trinaldo
Oh,
making
okay.
the
All
bottom of
right.
the
You know what?
list.
I must be looking at an old schedule or an old printout because you had Yair Rodriguez for both 14 and 15.
Oh, I have Trinaldo, Rodriguez, Nagano,
Oh,
Derek
okay.
Brunson at
All
12. So
right.
you had Gegard Mousasi on your list here at 10. A lot
Yeah.
of people could agree with you on this. Why Gegard Mousasi and why 10?
Well, Gegard Mousasi because I mean, well, you know, we just saw how he did at UFC 204, and so I figure I think we talked about this. He's going to get. We got two pivotal fights coming up in the middleweight division, right? We
Yeah.
got Yoel Romero versus Chris Weidman, and we have Rockhold versus Jacare 2. The one of the winners of those two fights, probably whoever most impresses the UFC, is going to be the next challenger for the title. It's gonna fight Michael Bisping. The other winner will probably face Gegard Mousasi. So Gegard Mousasi is number 5 in the rankings in the middleweight division. So he's right on the cusp. You know what I'm saying? He's right there. He's like 2 wins away from a title, or maybe one win away from a title shot. So that's why I put him at 10.
All right. So once we made our list and everything, the way it really all worked is, and you guys can see our list right here. Let me pull it up for everybody. The way it worked was we did somewhat of a point system here. The way we did it was our first place fighter, whoever me, Ted, and Minion had in first place, was going to get 15 points, person in second 14, third place 13, fourth place 12, so on and so forth. So that's how that was all mapped out. And here's our top 10 list that we came out with. Ted, I'm going to pull it up for everybody now.
Okay.
The official top 10 with everyone's rankings tied into it. So let's see what we got here. All right, so the official ones from 10 to 6. We'll start from the bottom. John Lineker landing at 10th.
Right.
Is this a deserving spot for Lineker? I mean, you had him
I had him
placed at 14.
Right. Well, so yeah, he's higher based on what you said and what Minion said. I mean, I'm not opposed to it. You know what I mean?
It's crazy the way this all worked out, guys, because the way I was bringing this up towards the beginning, that none of us had who actually came out in first as being in first, but the way the points worked out, since me and Ted had somebody high, or Minion, the way the points worked out, it boosted some of these fighters right up. Coming in 9th is Yoel Romero, who Minion, you just said, wasn't even on his list. I think I had him on mine.
He's got Yoel Romero at 10 on his
Oh,
list.
I didn't have Romero on my list.
Right, and I had him at number 1.
Oh, snap. So there you go. So Yoel Romero, he got, let's see, in points, he got 21 points altogether. So that's why he landed in 9th. I didn't have him on my list only because of the drama that's going on.
Okay. I mean, and with me, I just think we're looking at the next middleweight champion. Age doesn't seem to be a problem. How old is the guy? Like 39?
He's getting up there.
And he said that he says he's off the juice, or I mean, he never actually copped to it, right? I mean, I don't know what his excuse was, and I hate that fighters do that. Well, it was this thing. It must have been the kangaroo meat. Well, it must have been the cream that I used for my psoriasis or whatever. Come on, can't you just be honest and say what it was? Well, it was so I could perform better in the bedroom or what.
Rockhold's saying he's getting worse by the day.
What's that?
He's saying Yoel Romero's getting worse by the day.
Getting worse by the day. Well, I mean, I saw some photos of Yoel Romero, and he says he's been tested, and he looks the same, if not better. At least physique-wise. I don't know, but I mean, we're talking about a guy who's world-class, Olympic-level wrestling, and then just picked up striking like out of nowhere, is doing flying knees and all this other crazy stuff. I mean, just athletically amazing, just so gifted. I mean, unless Father Time catches up with him, real quick, man, he's tough to beat.
Yeah, man. Are you kidding?
Muradai is taking me to task here. He's saying, "What have I been smoking?"
Ooh.
Whatever it is, not enough. No, I don't know what he's got an issue with something.
Saying Yoel at first. I mean, and that's why Yoel here is in 9th on our list, because I didn't have him on my list. So he really suffered in points. He would have definitely been higher because I think Minion had him pretty high too. Minion had him at 10th. Yeah, you just said that. So, I mean, he really evened himself out there. He was born to be 10th here. I didn't have him. You had him at 1st. Minion had him at 10th. So that's how that worked out. So 8th, Khabib Nurmagomedov. Let me tell you why Khabib wasn't on my list, Ted. He's just not active enough, man. He fought once this year, and before that, we haven't seen him for 2 years since then. And not to mention, he fought a debut fighter. It was a great fighter, Daryl Horcher. Great fighter. Phenomenal performance that he put on. Khabib still won. It's just not enough to make my pound-for-pound list right now.
Yeah. And Muradai, I was right. Muradai has doesn't think that I should have Yoel Gennaro. Well, I'm just writing him a message. Yeah, so Khabib Nurmagomedov, true, not very active, but still the number one contender in the lightweight division, right? And owns a win over RDA, and just an absolute killer. So yeah, I put him at number 4.
Yeah, man, he scored 22 points out of everybody. I gave him 0 points because he didn't make my list. So you and Ted had him on there, or you and Minion had him on there. So he ranks in at number 7, right? Am I at number 7? Right? All right, so number 6 here, Ted.
No, Habib in the top 10 list. Habib was 8.
Oh, okay, 8.
7 so, Donald Cerrone.
7 came Donald Cerrone. Now, I would like to argue this. I think that he deserves a higher spot on this list for sure. Ted, you didn't even have him on your list. What's going on?
I love Cowboy. I really do. I guess, you know what I mean? When you've only got 15 slots, it's tough, when you have to eliminate people. And I was like, well, he made the transition to welterweight. So he's only had like 3 fights at welterweight, I think, and he's done very, very well in those fights. But so I'm like, he needs to have more fights in the division, because you're looking at guys like Stephen Thompson and Damian Maia and blah blah blah. Who else? Who else is a 170? I don't know.
Killers at 170.
What's that?
You have all killers at 170.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Maybe it just slipped through the cracks. If I were to do it again, I could take out some other people and stick him in there. I wouldn't have a problem doing that. You know what I mean?
I mean, I think that he deserves a little higher, at least on that list, over Shevchenko.
and Ann's mad at me too. I could just see Ann going like this. She's shaking her finger at me. Bad. Shame on you. No Cowboy. I know she's a big Cowboy fan.
Can I ask you this, though, Ted? And this is kind of what happened with me. Like, I really don't think, and I really hope nobody gets mad at me for saying this, I probably wouldn't have a female on my pound-for-pound list. The only reason why I did it is because I felt like there should be. Did you feel the same about that?
I kind of had those feelings too, and I mean, but I like I said, I was really impressed with Valentina Shevchenko. I mean, heck, we could have done separate, men and women, males and females if we wanted. But this was an overall pound for pound list. I did kind of feel that pressure, if you will, that obligation
to get it in there. Yeah.
Have one female fighter in there, but I mean, they work just as hard and they put on exciting fights too.
I mean, if I did this list 10 times, guys, I think I'd come up with 10 different lists maybe, but very, very close, very similar, but add or subtract 1 or 2 of these fighters here. especially with some of the spots. There was no criteria here, guys. That's one thing I want to point out. This wasn't like a really rule-based thing. This was, just make up a list. All right, so number 7 was Donald Cowboy Cerrone, man. I had him at number 3 on my list originally, sending it in. And Minion McGrunion had him at number 2. Now, I really suggest everybody out there goes and check out Minion's page, because he did a thing for the all-in-all pound-for-pound list, Ted, saying that Cowboy should be number 1 on the pound-for-pound list no matter what.
Wow.
You should really check it out. He actually has a little segment for you, too, saying that people with a direction to your YouTube page and everything. It blew my mind when I watched it. He did a really good job on that.
Oh, I got to see this.
Yeah, there's
not just because of that. I was gonna I had already made up my mind I was gonna watch it anyway before you even said that. I mean, it doesn't matter to me that I'm mentioning it. No, I was gonna watch it anyway. So, but I got to tell you, Ann is probably Minion's biggest fan. Because she loves Cowboy so much. So if she hasn't seen the video, she needs to. And right now she's giving me the middle finger. I'm like persona non grata to Ann right now. I'm in the doghouse.
Yeah, I mean, Ann's literally in love with Cowboy. What else is going on in the chat room, Ted? Because they can't really see what's going on in there.
Oh, Pat says he's pound for pound number 1.
Well, of course you are, Pat.
he himself, Pat.
Shout out to the pure evil Hermie.
Brooklyn wonders why no Mickey Gall. I mean, he's so new.
We're not doing the Fight Pass pound for pound list.
Hey, check this out. Well, along those lines, we could do like a Young Guns list.
A day.
So you got like Gall's on there.
A rookie list.
Platinum's on there. You know what I'm saying? Like all the Young Guns, all the rookies. Guys. Maybe we'll make a criteria. Okay, they can't have any more than X number of fights in the UFC.
You gotta have at least 3.
At least 3, but no more than 5, something like that. What do you think?
I think that's a great idea. A great discussion there for the chat room as well. We'll have to bring it up. We'll bring it up in a little while.
Let's call it the Young Guns or the rookies or whatever. Something like that.
Tony Ferguson, Ted, coming in at 6 on our top 10 list.
El cuckoo.
And he has a fight coming up. This upcoming UFC event is RDA versus the real El Cucuy, Tony Ferguson. Who do you got in that fight, Ted? I've been asking everybody this. I did a poll on Twitter. 52% of our followers believe that RDA is going to be the winner, which just shows you how close this fight really could be. It's the flip of a coin here. RDA coming off a loss. Tony Ferguson coming off a win to Lando for Veneta. What do you think's going on here?
I think I picked Ferguson in this one. I really like that guy. And RDA, I mean, he's hot and cold now, right? I mean, he was on that streak for a long, long time. He's kind of, right?
I mean, he's just coming off that one loss to he had the injury when he was supposed to fight Conor McGregor with his foot. And then he showed up to fight Eddie Alvarez, got knocked out in that very first round. So none of us really know what to expect. You're right.
Yeah, I mean the foot thing. I found this. I think I talked about this before. This Instagram where he's doing sprints outside. Like
you brought this up
on asphalt. He's doing sprints outside of the academy, wherever his academy was, but he was doing them. His stride was all weird. He's like running flat-footed, and I'm like, did he do something to his foot with that weird stride thing there? Like maybe he shouldn't do that. I don't know. It was just a theory.
You're probably right.
But I'm picking Ferguson. I think Ferguson's just got the big got the big momentum going, and I think Ferguson's going to win it. Tony
Ferguson has been waiting for this fight for a while now, Ted. This is Tony Ferguson's championship fight. This is the fight that he was destined to fight, so to say, because this whole time for a while now, he's only been talking about, I want the title shot. And who was the champion up until this time other than Showtime Pettis? It was RDA. Here's the shot here. He needs this win.
A 9-fight win streak?
Who? Tony Ferguson?
Tony Ferguson.
I think so, man. He's on one hell of a streak right now.
Somebody was saying that. I got to go back in the chat here. Blah 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 blah.
A very impressive fight. Very impressive fighter. But that last fight, Khabib and Tony Ferguson, both fighting two huge rookies that made a big name for themselves so far this year. Between Lando Vanega.
Oh no, Holloway. I'm sorry,
Max
Holloway.
Holloway has a 9-fight win streak.
9. Ferguson's got an 8-fight win streak.
Okay.
That's wow. That's amazing.
So I had Tony Ferguson at 9 on my list. You had Tony Ferguson at 8 on yours. Minion had Tony Ferguson at number 3. So that is why he's ranking in tonight at number 6 on our Evil Intoxicated pound for pound list. Ted, you ready to break into the top 5? It gets very interesting here on out.
Let's do it.
And there's a lesson to be learned here. All right, so here we go. Let me pull it up really quick for everybody. There it is. There's our top 5 list. All right, at the bottom here, and this might surprise some of you out there, Cody No Love Garber.
At number 5. That's right.
Number 5.
Yep. I had him at number 5. Look at that. I had him at number 5 on my list.
Minion had him at number 8. I had him at number 6. But boom, he's at number 5. I think this is totally deserving for Cody No Love, only because he's been making a storm lately. But the question is, has he been fighting dominant enough fighters compared to some of these other guys that we're naming to really make the case that he deserves this high up on all 3 of our lists? I mean, his last fight was against Thomas Almeida. That was one of his most memorable knockouts. I mean, his fight at UFC 189 went the distance, but any other fight besides that first round knockout, knocking out he just knocked out Mitsugaki. I mean, come on, this kid's on a roll this year, so that's why he deserves high on my list. What about you? Why was he so high on yours? Even though there's a lot of people up there that might not agree with us, Ted.
Right. I mean, I see him as the guy that should be fighting for the title next. You know, he should be fighting Dominic Cruz. I heard a crazy rumor today that Dominic Cruz might actually fight Jose Aldo. Somebody was saying, people were throwing that around, but we don't know who the next challenger is for the bantamweight title, right?
I would love that fight. I heard rumors of it's T.J. Dillashaw.
Oh, the Thriller-Shaw, Killer-Shaw.
I
think it should be Cody Garbrandt. I don't know that T.J. Dillashaw needs a shot just yet. Maybe fight somebody else first. He's had another fight in there, but I think one more, right?
T.J. Dillashaw only fought a Sun Sao at UFC 200. That was his last fight, yeah.
Okay. So, I mean,
I think the same for Cody. I mean, I originally agreed with you. A couple weeks ago, I agreed with you on this matter. I just feel like it might be perfect if they did it like a Cody No Love versus a Rivera. Rivera just coming off a win to Faber, ranked number 3 now in that division. What do you think about that? Jimmy Rivera, I'm talking about, guys.
Jimmy Rivera, yeah. Oh no, yeah. I remember Jimmy Rivera. I know him. I don't know him personally, but I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. No, I know you do. I'm just making sure everyone else there does.
Yeah.
Or even Lineker as well in that division.
Lineker's up there too. Yeah, it's getting exciting.
I mean, should Cody really get that title shot immediately? I mean, that's a lot to handle if you do get that belt. Is he ready for that?
I think he is. And that's why I have him at number 5. You know, I see him as the rightful challenger to the title.
I see him as future champion. I agree.
He's the guy that's making the most noise. He's the guy. You know, he's got a personality. He's absolutely stalking Dominic Cruz every chance he gets. It's borderline criminal.
I brought this up last week. In Dominic Cruz's last fight, he was begging T.J. Dillashaw almost to talk shit to him. Now he's got Cody No Love talking shit, and he's blocked him on social media. Isn't this what you wanted, champ? Come on. All right, so number 6, Ted, Max Holloway ranking number 4, Max Holloway. I mean, I had him at number 5. You had him at what? 7?
I had him at 7.
And what about Minion? Minion had him at 4. This is why he deserves top of everyone's list this is why this is a perfect fit for him. It's because he should be the champion right now, a lot of people would say. 9-fight win streak. How many people say that in the UFC? In that featherweight division, especially. His last loss was to Conor. What's your take on this, Ted?
Yeah, he should be, well, let's see. Okay, so Conor's the champion, and Jose Aldo is the interim champion, right? If Jose Aldo is not going to fight Conor for the title, then maybe Max Holloway could fight Jose Aldo. If there's, we're just going to have to see what's going to happen at 205, because Conor's going to make this crazy announcement, and nobody knows what it's going to be. Some people say it's going to be that he's taking time off. So if he takes time off, does that mean he gives up the belts? If he gives up the belts, does that mean that Jose Aldo is just gifted the undisputed belt, or does Jose have to fight somebody else for the undisputed belt? If that's the case, then it should be Max Holloway. I'll say that. Max Holloway, with his record, should be fighting for the belt next if Conor's out of the equation. And if Conor's still remaining the champ, then it's Conor versus Jose. Holloway gets the winner. Boom.
Oh, it's just absolutely crazy. That entire division is full of killers, people on the rise. Ted, I was just about to say that exciting news that Conor's bringing up, man, that I get like a thrill inside wondering what that is. You know what I mean? Like my parents got me a Christmas present. It's under the bed, but I just don't know what it is. I need to know what's going on.
Yeah, I know. I mean, people are saying he's going to take time off and develop.
Or is it a baby? And what could be a baby? A lot of people are saying a lot of things.
Right. Is Dee Devlin, his longtime girlfriend, pregnant? Is he going to take time off to develop Team McGregor? Because, we keep seeing him with, he just got a teammate of his signed to the UFC. And, we know that Straight Blast Gym, which, John Tapper,
Ireland, yeah.
That's growing. They're getting more guys in there. Muradai thinks, Muradai saying, Ann saying Holloway needs to fight for the belt, and then Muradai said, yeah, I think it will happen when McGregor takes time off. So, okay, so there's a lot of people that believe that he's going to take time off.
It could happen. I mean, it would be amazing if we do see him win that belt, that second belt. I think that would be amazing. So the featherweight division is on hold now. We don't know what's going on, but otherwise, Max Holloway probably wouldn't be on this list because he's probably one of the only people on this list that everyone thought was going to get a title shot a while back. So Max Holloway lingering here at number 4. He should be somebody that has challenged for the title, but he's not. So he ranks in at number 4 on our list. Number 3, Anthony Rumble Johnson, somebody who I had at the top of my list. Somebody who think
you had him at number 1. You had Rumble at number 1.
Yeah, man.
And he was number 6 for me. So he was one above. I had Holloway at 7, and then 6 was Anthony Johnson.
And 9 on Minion's list. So made all 3 of our lists.
I mean, yeah, he's lost to Daniel Cormier before, but he's just everybody else he's knocked out pretty much. How many fights did he have after Cormier? I forget. 2 or 3 fights after Cormier, and he knocked out Glover Teixeira. He knocked out Alexander Gustafsson.
Bader.
Yeah.
He just beat Bader in a minute and 15 seconds or something.
Yeah. So he worked his way back up to title contention. He deserves this second shot at the title. I'm not sure it's going to go any different than the first one.
Oh, I hope so.
Well, I don't know. I just think, Cormier's got his number. Cormier's got the chin. He can handle those heavy shots.
Well, he got dropped in that first fight, though. Just to remind everyone, he got dropped in the first,
sure.
And then he gave up. It seemed like he just gave up.
Well, he
got choked out.
He just doesn't have it on the ground. I mean,
yeah.
And also his cardio is a bit suspect. But nevertheless, he's a straight killer, and he's the number 1 contender. So that's why I put him at 6.
Anthony Rumble Johnson coming at number 1 because this is the only guy on the list that, besides Max Holloway, that really should be in there as one of the champions. I think that Anthony Johnson is going to be the next champion, and then maybe a John Bones fight. That's what I'm really hoping for. We've all wanted it. I don't think both of them really want it. It was supposed to happen in the past, never went down.
Right.
But DC, man, he only got one loss, and that one loss is to John Bones Jones. That's the real fight there, if you ask me. But Rumble coming at the top of my list, which gets us to number 2, Damian Maia. Ted, where'd you have Maia on your list? I see third.
Maia at number 3. Yep.
Minion had him at 1, and I had him at 8. Why'd you have him at 3?
3, because let's see. I mean, he's in line for the title shot. I mean, he really has since dropping to welterweight. He's done fantastic. I mean, he challenged for the title. Remember, long ago he challenged for the middleweight title against Silva. But then he dropped to welterweight, and he's been doing great. I see Stephen Thompson as the next challenger. They still haven't announced that, right? They still haven't announced who. No, wait. No.
We're talking about Wonder Boy? Wonder Boy's about to fight at 205.
I lost my mind for a second there. Hello? Yeah, so Wonder Boy is fighting for the title at UFC 205. I see Damian Maia as the guy that's waiting for the winner there. He'll challenge next. So that's
man, he's been killing guys lately. I mean, between Matt Brown, we saw what he did to Matt Brown. He just destroyed Carlos Condit, smooth killed her. And another interesting fact about him, I think that was released this year, is that in the past couple of fights, he's only had like 21 significant shots, or like 8 significant shots in his last 6 fights or something like that.
Right. He's a guy that's so good at one style and one aspect of the fight game, BJJ. So if you can't beat him there, you've got to figure out a way to nullify that. You know, you know what he's going to do. You know what he's going to do. It's not a secret. It's just, even with that knowledge, can you win? Can you figure out a way? Can you figure out the counter to that BJJ? And nobody has solved the riddle yet, you know?
So do you think that Stephen Wonderboy Thompson would be able to take Maia out, or do you think Woodley would have a better chance if that were to the next fight? For either of them.
Well, since I'm picking Thompson over Woodley, but not necessarily because of that. We don't want to get into MMA math, right? Because A plus B doesn't always equal C, or whatever, however that goes.
Yeah,
but
people in the chat room might go crazy.
Yeah, it's like, you know, I mean, Stephen Thompson definitely has like the footwork and controlling the distance, kind of like
beautiful, nice and flowy. Yeah,
flowy. You know, the karate. So you know, it has a fast twitch muscles. But then, yeah, go ahead.
One quick little plug. I actually just spoke with Eddie Mercado on the podcast, who just interviewed Wonder Boy 2 days ago. So check that interview out for Bloody Elbow. I got to speak with Eddie Mercado. That's up on the podcast, and he gives us a little hint about how he feels Wonder Boy is going to do here at UFC 205, where his head is at. So I'm happy that this is going to go down. I think Maia deserves a spot here at the top. You had him at 3. Yep. I had him at 8. And it's just he was bound to be at the top of this list. He's just been killing it lately, and he's an older guy, you know. So it's just good for him.
Right, Minion had him at number 1, Damian Maia.
That's right. Look at that. Yeah, got him at number 1.
Yep.
Jesus. All right. So number 1 on.
Speaking of number 1,
Speaking of number 1, he wasn't number 1 on my list. He wasn't number 1 on Ted's list. He wasn't even number 1 on Minion's list, but somehow, due to points, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson is number 1 pound for pound on Evil Intoxicated non-champion pound for pound list. What do you think about it, Ted?
Well, yeah, it's when you average it all out. He was number 2 on your list. He was number 2 on my list. He was number 5 on Minion's. So you add that all up together, and nobody had a higher score than him. Yeah, I mean, I picked him to win over Tyron Woodley. I think he has the right formula, so long as he doesn't stand right in front of the guy. And I think he's going to be able to avoid the takedowns and light him up on the feet, And so I see him as the next welterweight champion of the world, and that's why I put him at number 2. Just like I said, I see Yoel Romero as the next middleweight champion. So I put him at number 1, and then Thompson at number 2.
He's been on an absolute tear this year. I'm so excited for UFC 205. Dying to see what's going to happen between him and Woodley, but Stephen Thompson has been just crucifying dudes this year between Johnny Hendricks. I had Johnny Hendricks winning that fight, Ted. I don't know about you. I thought Hendricks was going to win, and then Wonderboy just put a display on him that was just like, wow. Yeah. So none of us had Wonderboy at number 1. However, he ranks out at number 1. And if you look at me, Ted, and Minion's top 5 list, they're all a little different, but all straight killers. My top 5 had Anthony Johnson, Wonderboy, Cowboy, Derek Lewis, Max Holloway. Ted had Yoel, Stephen Thompson, Damian Maia, Khabib, Cody No Love, and Minion had Damian Maia, Cowboy, Tony Ferguson, Max Holloway, and Wonderboy. So not far off. We all came pretty close.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kicking myself that I didn't have Cowboy. I apologize to Cowboy and to Ann, by the way. If I had to do it all over again, I'd put him in there somewhere.
So my question to the chat room is, who do you guys think would be on your list? Who would be your number 1 pick for your pound-for-pound non-champion? Remember, he cannot be coming off a loss, or she. Could be a she. I was even thinking Chris Cyborg, Ted, was going to make the list, but there's no I didn't want to throw that in there, because I didn't think anyone else was going to have her, and then the points just got screwed up. So, Ted, the way they do this in the UFC, I mean, it was just 3 of us. I mean, in the UFC, there's a whole bunch of people that, make this
the rankings. Yeah, there's all sorts of MMA media types that are in on those rankings.
I mean, can you explain that a little bit to everybody, like what pound for pound means? I mean, some people take it differently. What's your meaning of pound for pound?
My take on pound for pound. If everybody, the way I take it is if
everybody weighed the same,
all things being equal, if everybody was the same, then who would the strongest fighter be? In other words, who would be the most dominant? I guess the consensus is, or the majority of the people think that Mighty Mouse is the pound for pound number 1 fighter in the world, because he is so skilled and because he's so dominant at his weight class. He's hands down, heads and shoulders above everybody else. So therefore, he's the number 1 guy. I guess that's. I got to be honest with you. I don't put a whole lot of stock in the whole pound for pound thing, because we're not going to see that. I mean, we're not going to. I mean, okay, we're going to see. We're not going to see very many champion versus champion. Yeah, we're going to see Conor fight Eddie, but that's a rarity. That's it's rare that you're going to see anybody that's on that pound for pound list fight each other, right? So it's kind of a fantasy thing. In my opinion, it's kind of a fantasy. Oh well, all things being equal, who would the strongest fighter be? You know what I mean? Because in reality, Mighty Mouse is not going to be able to beat Derek Lewis or something.
And we see the rankings jump all around every week, even when some of the fighters haven't even fought. I mean, it's just weird how all the rankings work out. This little experiment that we did, though, made me learn a lot. I mean, we all had pretty similar lists. However, our number 1 guy wasn't even on any of our list at number 1. I learned a lot, man, how the rankings work over there. If you guys are still wondering how it all works, Minion McGrunion has a great video set up that he's got on the Pure Evil MMA podcast set up for everybody. Ted, what is next up on before we wrap the show up? Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about?
Well, Eddie, I think that was about it.
There's one thing I was thinking of that I'll bring up if you got nothing.
I got nothing. Go for it, man.
All right, so Nick Diaz apparently is going to be making his return. Now, Dana White came out saying, all we're waiting on is for Nick Diaz to tell us who he wants, when he wants, and how much he wants. But yet, guys, he still owes a little bit of money. I think he owes like $75K or something like that. But Dana White's saying, oh, don't worry about it. However, Ted, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think Nick has been saying he's wanted this one, he's wanted that one, and this one. He wants it then. And is Dana White the only one not hearing this? Why is he saying this now? And if Nick is going to be fighting soon, who is it going to be against?
I mean, that's a lot of questions there.
I'm infamous for that.
Yeah. No. It sounds like they need to sit down and talk because well, first of all, I was when you told me that quote, I was kind of a little bit surprised that Diaz is going to tell the UFC who he wants to fight. It's usually the other way around.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can call out whoever you want, but at the end of the day, the matchmaker is the guy that says, "Okay, you two guys are going to fight."
I mean, we did a whole segment on it. He was calling out GSP. He said that he got drugged or something, right? And
right. I wouldn't mind seeing that fight. If GSP, if he can reach an agreement with the UFC, I wouldn't mind seeing, GSP versus Nick Diaz too. There's definitely some unfinished business there. There's a storyline that's already there. You could work that into it. That whole drugs thing, and then remember, didn't GSP actually weigh more than he should have? But because it was held in Quebec, they kind of just scrubbed at it. They kind of just turned a blind eye to it. There was so much controversy up there in regard to that fight that you've got a whole big storyline built right in already. I'd like to see Nick Diaz sooner rather than later. So I hope they can work it out. Whatever it is, whatever the problem is, let's work it out. You know what I mean?
Also, one more thing that we forgot to mention during our fight updates: Rafael Assunção going to be fighting Aljamain Sterling. I do not like this matchup for Sterling. I think Rafael Assunção got his number here. What about you, Ted?
Yeah, I don't know. I have to do a little bit of research on that one. I mean, you might be right, and because isn't Sterling coming off of a loss to Caraway?
Yes, to Mrs. Cupcake.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Sterling was one of these guys that was a hot prospect and probably still is. So, in that regard, if he's a hot prospect, maybe you shouldn't give him somebody like Assunção, who is a serious, who's a tough customer and has a lot of experience.
Top-ranked guys, though.
Top-ranked guy. Maybe you shouldn't give him a top-ranked guy. I mean, they say there are no easy fights in the UFC.
He's coming off a loss too, though, Ted.
Okay. All right. So, I mean, maybe that's how the UFC justifies it. Oh, this guy's coming off a loss. This guy's coming off a loss. Why not let him fight? I mean, but I think it might be too much of
a risk for.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you on that. I think it's too much for Sterling.
I mean, Assunção was kind of quiet for a while up until the fight with TJ Dillashaw, the rematch. That was their rematch, and TJ tied it up 1-1 now, beating Assunção this time around. I just think Assunção is gonna get him here. All right, guys. So this was episode number 18 of Evil and Intoxicated. We're gonna wait another couple of minutes. If you guys got anything left that you want us to discuss here, now is your time in the chat room, because this is the Q&A segment of Evil and Intoxicated. Ted, what's going on in the chat room, boss?
I was just writing something about Carlos Condit, because Pat was saying that he said Nick versus Condit 2, and then Muradai said, "Isn't Condit retired?" And I said,
"Nope."
I think he was talking about it. I'm not sure if it's definite. Is it for sure?
It's not for sure, no.
Okay, that's where I thought it was. He talked about it the fight before that. He talked about it this last loss, but I'm not sure it's cast in stone yet. Sounds like he, as we mentioned earlier tonight, might be taking some time off to gather his thoughts and see.
Yeah, like we talked about with Evil Eye.
Right, yeah, Jessica Evil Eye, for sure. And then Pat saying, do you want to see No Love versus TJ?
All right, so yeah, we were just talking about this. I would love to see that fight. I really would. If they wanted to do that, because the storyline is there, Ted. A lot of people would say that it's not there, though.
Well, no, I mean, no, it definitely is, because Cody trains with Team Alpha Male. TJ Dillashaw used to.
And then he bounced, and now he's just snake in the grass.
Right, snake in the grass.
Snake in the grass. Snake in the grass.
Right. So there's a rivalry there for sure. So yeah, they could easily do that fight. I mean, like I said, I see Cody fighting for the title, but if they're not going to do that, if they're going to go another route, then yeah, sure, make No Love versus TJ.
That would be interesting. I'd be pretty psyched to watch that. Actually, I think I'd be more psyched to watch that than Cody No Love fighting for the championship right away.
All right, and then Muradai, a question: do I remember a Swedish fighter named David Bielkaden, if I'm pronouncing it right? He's on a 6 or 7 fight win streak, beat 3 ex-UFC fighters. He said he wants to make a comeback to the UFC.
All right, so this let me bring this up to you, Ted. Season number 25, maybe 26 of Ultimate Fighter. Do you think they're going to be doing a comeback season like they did earlier on with Matt Serra? Because Dana White, in an interview that he recently did, was saying that maybe we might see some superstars coming up on Ultimate Fighter. What do you think about it, Ted?
Well, I would be interested in that. I would be really interested. And I haven't been. I don't know, for some reason. I know you love the Ultimate Fighter. And it's been a while since it's really impressed me, but I think that would. I think seeing guys that for whatever reason are not in the UFC, bringing them back, that kind of thing, just like a repeat of the season when Matt Serra was on. If they do that again, I will watch.
Who would be one of your front guys for that? Who would you want to see them bring back?
Oh God. Well, how about that guy David Branch? David Branch was in the UFC. I guess they got rid of him. He goes to the World Series of Fighting. He's a dual weight champion in World Series of Fighting. He's the 185 champ and he's the 205 champ. Bring that guy back.
Ted, they just cut Enrique Marin, who just lost to Sage Northcutt. Everyone's saying that there's the Sage Northcutt curse.
What is the Sage Northcutt curse? What exactly? Explain that to me.
I don't know. If you lose to Sage Northcutt, you're getting cut.
Brian Barberino.
You're getting cut and heading up north. I don't know.
Wait. Well, who else got cut?
Well, let's see. Sage Northcutt only had 4 fights in the UFC, so it wasn't Bam Bam because he lost to Bam Bam. So
right.
I don't know. I mean, who was his? I can't even remember his opponents.
Yeah, because yeah,
I do. Cody Pfister. He fought Cody Pfister. He's still around though, Cody Pfister.
So what's this talk about this curse?
I don't know. I'm not exactly sure. I heard it tonight, and I've heard it before. But here's Enrique Marin. See you later. I don't think they should have cut Enrique Marin. I thought he was an exciting fighter. I don't know what you guys particularly think about it, but I don't know. I think Sage Northcutt versus Mickey Gall is going to be one hell of an exciting fight. But yeah. I would be so mad if they put it on like an actual card and not a Fight Pass card. And I think a lot of fighters will agree with me on that.
Wait, you want it on Fight Pass?
I want that on Fight Pass. I think that's what that's designed for, is a Fight Pass.
I don't think it's going to be. Just I was looking at the lineup. It's the UFC on Fox 22.
Oh, it's scheduled?
What's that?
It's all set and scheduled? What's the date?
Yeah, it's that one. I threw my papers on the floor, but it's the woo! It's the UFC on Fox 22, the one in Sacramento.
Damn.
What's that? December 17th.
So they're not going to be. It's going to be the main card. Do you know that?
Well, shoot, I don't know.
We'll have to wait and find out about it.
I mean, these Fox cards, they only have like a 4-fight main card.
Yeah, a lot of people coming off of losses usually on it, so.
Right.
It's probably going to be a higher up.
Van Zandt versus Karate Hottie is the main event.
Oh, okay, that's what's on there. All right.
I'm pretty sure.
Well, that's going to be a fun card then, huh?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, so I'm going to let you guys wrap it up in the chat room. If you have any more questions while I'll wrap this up, make sure you type to Ted right now. If you tuned in late and you missed out on today's episode, number 18 of Evil Intoxicated, do not worry because it's going to be up on Pod-O-Matic later tonight. You can listen to it tomorrow morning, whether you're on your way to work, you're going to the gym, you're taking the dog for a nice long walk. I know Jody likes bringing her dog for a walk, but tonight, if you missed it and you're just tuning in, and we're signing out now, you missed a great show. We talked about GSP. We talked about Shane Carwin. We talked about all the new and upcoming fights coming up. Perry versus Joban. We talked about Jessica Evil had taken a year off. Uriah Faber. One of the highlights tonight, though, I talked about was GSP. I'm going to be cutting that clip out and posting up on YouTube. Make sure you guys subscribe down below. Ted, what else is going on in the chat room? Let us know before
let's see.
we
There's a little bit of talk. A Minion saying he wants a tough 25 to be Bisping versus Weidman or Rockhold. So clearly Minion thinks that Weidman is going to beat Romero and Rockhold is going to be Jacare. They could make it a Team UK versus Team USA.
I would like that. We saw this before. I think this would be like the 4th time Bisping's been on Ultimate Fighter.
Oh my God, yeah, he's like he's an institution there. But he always brings the pranks.
I asked Eddie Mercado from Bloody Elbow on the podcast. I was like, what's your fighter of the year? How is it not Michael Bisping? He said it's not Michael Bisping. Everyone's giving Bisping a bad rap this year. I think it's a no-brainer. I mean, you got to hear some of the people that he brought up, though. He brought up a couple good ones. I don't want to spoil it. You got to check it out on the podcast. But
okay, because I was going to ask you what was Eddie saying, but that's fine. I'll just listen to it there.
He brought up a couple people that I forgot about, so I was like, guys, check out the new podcast because there's a lot of cool things I did, Ted. I changed it to more of like a radio style this week. There's no UFC events. We just saw Cage Warriors go down this weekend, so there was a lot of fun events that we did. A lot of fun segments. Let me know what you guys think about it. Make sure you give us a follow on Twitter. Ted, what else is going on in the chat room? I'm sorry.
Let's see here.
One last question we're going to take, if anyone's got it.
People are saying, well, Pat's saying Sage is going to win by knockout round
in the first round.
There we go. I mean, that's Pat, right? Pat, you're so predictable, man. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It
wouldn't be a show without Pat saying there's going to be a knockout in the first round.
We got to have it. Got to have it. And Muradai, I actually think Gall will beat Sage.
Hey, Muradai, thanks for tuning in this week. We do the show every Wednesday night. Subscribe down below. We're trying to figure out how to simulcast this through Ted's channel. But thanks for hopping over here to Pure Evil MMA, man.
Right. If anybody out there is like a YouTube guru, if anybody out there is like an expert, and there's any possible way we can simultaneously cast,
yeah.
Simultaneously cast, that's a simulcast. On Eddie's channel and my channel at the same time, so we can harness the power of the two channels together.
Power!
If there's any way to do that, please, somebody, let us know.
And make sure you guys follow us both on Twitter. Ted, I've been seeing you on Twitter a little more lately.
I know. I kind of slacked off this week.
No, man. I think you do a great job with your media. You're one man. You're one man representing.
Only one guy.
You're only one guy. I'm only one guy. You know what I mean? We do a lot, dude. We do a lot.
Sure. That's why it's good to, if somebody were to ask me, hey, how do I get involved in MMA media or whatever, I'd say, form partnerships. That's a good way to do it,
I mean, Ted, I say all the time to you, man, but I really couldn't picture doing a show with anyone else out there in the MMA media world. There's not that many good shows out there, man. I'm telling you. I go out there, I listen to all these shows. Minion goes out, he finds some great shows. Shout out to the MMA Advocates. They do a show every Wednesday night. We got to talk about that later, Ted. They want us to do a show with them soon because, like you're saying, partnerships, meeting people. But not many good shows out there, man. I think we do we're a great duo.
Yeah.
So I hope that I can bring this good news that I have into this show.
Well, we'll just have to see, huh?
We're going to have to wait and see. I think it would be perfect, though. I think it would be perfect. All right, so make sure you guys subscribe down below. This was episode number 18. Ted, you want to give your tags really quick as we close out the show?
Yeah, me, Ted Czech, TEDCZECH, like the Czech Republic. And I'm on Twitter. I'm on YouTube. Please join me on YouTube. That's kind of my main thing. As Eddie said, I do lots of little videos, and I try to keep up with the news, give you my view, and then put the issue out there and ask for everybody else's views, because everybody, I value everybody's opinion. So I just throw it out there, so to kind of get a forum going, to get some talk going.
One thing I want to mention to any of our new viewers that doesn't know Ted In case you're a little shy about watching MMA videos, they're nice, short, and quick. They're perfect for you to just have quick conversations with Ted. As soon as you comment, Ted's usually right on top of it, getting back to all of his listeners as well. Make sure you subscribe down below. This was episode number 18, the non-champion UFC pound-for-pound list. I want to give a shout-out to Minion McGrunnen, who did all of our visuals for this show, all of our animations. Thank you so much. He helped put a lot of this together. I really do appreciate that, Minion. Make sure you give him a follow. Check out his pound-for-pound list for Cowboy. That is also right here on YouTube. Check that out. Also, the Pure Evil MMA podcast, guys, just dropped. Make sure you check that out for your morning gym, your morning jog, whether you're on your way to work, whether you're going to bed. I mean, we got people all around the world. That's the beauty of MMA. We had a great show, Ted. Thanks for tuning in to episode number 18 of Evil and Intoxicated. We will see you next Wednesday night at 10 p.m. because we do this every Wednesday night at 10 p.m. Have a great night, everybody. I'm Evil Eddie from Pure Evil MMA, ProWrestlingAuthority.com. Behave yourselves.